This is going to be talking about what you're doing in Raid is not as important as you might think. In the background, I'm just going to be running around all these NPCs and not walking in them to simulate how to successfully do a grand conjunction. But anyway, most of what a raider does during the boss pull is inconsequential to its success. Like, there are some fights that have insane DPS checks, and that's fine, that's cool. But the moment you meet that check, pretty much anything extra is a waste of effort. And it's not to say that people shouldn't aspire to have excellent DPS. What it's saying is that it is not a priority once it reaches a certain point. Most of the time, each raider will have just a couple of seconds across each fight where they can decide whether or not they're going to wipe the raid. Healers have a rough time of it because they've got to have their healing cooldowns ready to go at a moment's notice and be acted upon within seconds of it being called for, otherwise everybody dies. And DPS generally have a movement mechanic that they have to do, which healers can also cop, and tanks do this pretty much constantly. That's why there's not that many people who tank, because it's apparently stressful, but whatever. People will have differing opinions on that. Anyway, the main point is that in each different fight, you have to know what the dangerous parts are and what those dangerous parts matter to you. So, if you're a DPS on Starborough, the only possible way you can kill everybody is if you stuff up the Grand Conjunction. Now, we got to a point where we weren't stuffing up the Grand Conjunction pretty much, so that's alright. People had got it through their head that doing the Grand Conjunction mechanic successfully was the most important part. Now, the Grand Conjunction is only 15 seconds out of every 30, I think. Or is it every minute? Whatever. It's not all the time. So whatever the DPS are doing outside of the Grand Conjunction, I don't really care. Like, unless it's fell phrase or you've got some other mechanic going on. But for the most part, most of you can sit on the boss, hitting the boss, to your heart's content. But the moment you get a relevant mechanic, you have to stop what it is you're doing and going and dealing with that mechanic. And quite often on top of that is you have to be preemptively moving or preemptively positioning yourself in preparation for that mechanic. There's no point if there's a mechanic that kills you and everybody around you in under half a second if it's cast on you, you trying to react once it's been cast on you. You've got to know that mechanic is coming in, you've got to make yourself in a safe position should you get it, and then if you don't get it, you go yippee and go back to hitting the boss. And if you do get it, you'll go yippee, I can do this mechanic properly and not kill everybody. So the Grand Conjunction is a very good example of this, because if at any point you're forced to be stacked on top of somebody else, or you just accidentally stack on top of somebody else, chances are that you'll both get a different debuff and kill everybody. But people had got pretty good at not stacking on top of each other for the most part. It was really just a matter of people walking into each other, which was stupid, but that's fine, whatever, we'll get over it. This relates a lot back to the Phase 4. This rambling has a point. So in Phase 4, there's a little bit of a pattern, whereby you hit the boss, then you dodge a giant laser beam, then you hit the ad, then you run away from the ad, then you don't look at the ad, then you hit the ad some more, then you hit the boss some more. You're only ever doing one thing at a time. And people have to be aware of what that one thing means to them. So for example, I'm going to pick on the shamans here. They have the spirit link here, and they drop the spirit link somewhere where we want it. I don't know where we want it yet, because it's going to be mattering where the raid is stacking up during the second and third Witness the Void cast. Because as it ramps up, we take more damage. That's fine. Now, depending on where the eye laser is coming out is depending on where we're going to be stacked up. Also depending on how the grand conjunction's going is going to be depending on how many people can make it to the stack, that sort of deal. But what it ultimately comes down to is you're going to be having to drop the spirit link on either the boss or the ad or the safe wall. One of those three positions. So if you're fucking off to the other side of the room in order to complete your grand conjunction, and you complete it and you think, yippity-doo-dah, and then I say, hey, cast Spirit Link here, and you go to cast your Spirit Link and it's like, oh shit, I'm out of range. I don't know if it can be out of range, but this is something that happens in my head. Then you've actually completed the grand conjunction incorrectly. This might not be an applicable example to everyone, or it might not even be a correct example, but the message is that you can successfully complete a mechanic and still fail it. So it's not only do you have to execute the requirements of the mechanic, you have to execute the requirements of the mechanic in such a way that you can continue to survive afterwards. Yeah? Because say if you got some form of living bomb on yourself, you could probably jump off a platform and kill yourself to avoid everyone else, but no, you have to also survive completing the mechanic, something along those lines. Rant over.